In a recent article by Ynet News entitled "A Diplomatic Storm is Coming in January," the subheading says, "Changes to UN Security Council body bode ill for Israel as two states friendly to Israel are replaced with two that are sure to vote for full membership for Palestine at the UN, and an American veto is no longer a sure thing." And I figured this would be the case at some point in time, that the United States would finally not veto the resolutions that the Security Council condemns and brings down upon Israel. Changes in the makeup of the UN Security Council have made Israel's diplomatic stance worse and strengthened the Palestinians' position on the world stage. During the weekend, 5 new members were elected to enter the UN Security Council on January the 1st, 2015, as non-permanent members for 2 years, while 5 current non-permanent members will evacuate their seats. And the current new members favor a probable Palestinian state vote. It says Israeli diplomats said that following the changes in the council's makeup, it is likely Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas will be quick to try his luck in asking the UN Security Council to grant Palestine full membership in the United Nations. So far, the Palestinians managed to obtain non-member observer state status at the UN General Assembly, but recognition from the Security Council will make them an official member of the UN. Unfortunately, an American veto for such a move is not something Israel can take for granted anymore. Diplomatic officials said Israel is taking into bracing for a bad scenario, which the Democrats lose their Senate majority in the midterm elections in 2 weeks' time, and will then be free of obligations, which might lead them to get back at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for all the public clashes with the Democratic administration at the White House. A diplomatic storm is coming in January, a diplomatic source said. The council has 15 members, 5 of them permanent and 10 of them are non-permanent. In order to pass a resolution, a 9-vote majority is required. Even if the resolution passes, each of the permanent members has the right to veto the decision. So far, Israel has had 2 lines of defense in the Security Council: the lack of a majority for decisions favorable to the Palestinians, and more importantly, a guaranteed American veto. Before the change, the Palestinians seemingly only had 7 states that supported their plight to join as a full member, so the American veto was not as crucial. Now the situation has changed. Following the election of the 5 new states, Israel has lost 2 friendly states that supported, Australia and Rwanda. Instead, the new council makeup now includes Venezuela and Malaysia, 2 problematic states that could be counted automatically as those who would vote in favor of a Palestinian request. Now, certainly Turkey's loss, however, brought a sigh of relief to Israel, as the situation would have been far worse had Ankara gotten a seat. Not only would the Palestinians have the 9-state majority they needed, they'd have 10 yes votes guaranteed. Israel's last line of defense is now the American veto, and it is counting on it. But the Americans would do anything to avoid having to use their veto power, and it's likely they will put pressure on other Security Council members not to support a unilateral Palestinian move. The Americans will probably try to present alternatives such as the revival of peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians. The Europeans, on their part, will try to reach a compromise, not to accept the Palestinians as a member state, but rather set parameters for a permanent agreement that would lead to the establishment of a Palestinian state. Such parameters would include Israelis' withdrawal to the 1967 borders, land swaps, and declaring East Jerusalem as the capital of the Palestinian state. Israeli diplomats are saying that Abbas now has tailwind that will likely push him to go for broke and make good on his threats. Not only turn to the UN Security Council to set a deadline for Israeli withdrawal to the 1967 borders by November 2016, but also turn to the International Criminal Court at The Hague. In addition, these changes at the Security Council will not only play a part in the vote on accepting the Palestinians into the UN, but in other resolutions concerning Israel, like condemning settlement construction, or military operations, calling for UN inquiry committees on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and more. So this is a big problem for Israel, and the future looks pretty bleak as far as that's concerned. Of course, we know the Lord is in control, and He knows what the future holds. But Israel is still a blinded nation that has not accepted the Lord as the Messiah, so they will continue to try to appease the world. And this basically is the answer to that right here. Lieberman's Ynet News is also reporting that Lieberman's plan to bolster Israel on world stage in 2015. Increased cooperation with U.S. diplomatic agreement for Israeli-Palestinian conflict, fighting anti-Semitism, increasing cooperation with Europe. These are the goals Foreign Minister Lieberman outlined for the coming year. The article goes on to say, while high-ranking government officials have been criticizing U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, Foreign Minister Lieberman has made it his goal to make Israel's cooperation with the United States a priority in Israel's national security policy. Lieberman sent out a classified document titled Top Priorities for Israel's Foreign Policy in 2015 to Israeli ambassadors worldwide, with detailed instructions on how to conduct foreign relations in the year ahead. After saying that Europe does not understand what is happening in the Middle East, Lieberman made it a point to strengthen Israel's dialogue with Europe among the goals outlined in the document. Now here's what's interesting right here. It says the 8-page document expressed the foreign ministry's aims to increase coordination with the American administration against Iran's nuclear program, the Islamic State, and international initiatives that seek to isolate Israel. It was further noted that the foreign ministry will aim to promote a diplomatic solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and create a regional security framework in the coming year. And, that's really what the Bible has said in Daniel 9:27, that there would be a peace with many on the table that will be confirmed by the Antichrist. Now here's something else that's very interesting about the document. It says the document states that by giving the European Union an active role and involving it in efforts to reach regional agreements, the reconstruction of Gaza, preventing ATM smuggling, and the peace process, Israel could continue and upgrade its dialogue with Europe in order to prevent sanctions and pressure imposed on Israel. Another subject brought up in the document is the reinforcement and legitimization of Israel's status as a Jewish democratic state and the efforts needed to strengthen the legitimacy and recognition of Israel's position, especially in Europe, as a basis for ensuring economic and social prosperity. Now here's the main purpose as to why they're doing this. It is also stated that action should be taken to advance and protect national interest in the international arena, maintaining the legitimacy of Israel as a state operating under the rule of law and in the spirit of international norms. The formulation of a coordinated and clear policy in response to the challenges in the international arena following Operation Protective Edge, including dealing with UN Inquiry Commission headed by William Shabbos, the expansion of joint operations with the UN and international organizations, fight against the renewed Palestinian effort for international recognition, there it is right there, an effort to adapt international law to fighting in civilian areas, place emphasis on positioning Israel as the epitome of entrepreneurship by recruiting the Israeli private sector and civic society. The last point of the document focused on developing a new economic agenda, continuing Israel's integration into the global economy with an emphasis on development of new export markets and increasing Israel's foreign aid budget to the OECD level to make Israel a more prominent contributor. But clearly Israel's on a media campaign to try to clear up their problem with the European Union and to have closer ties with the United States in a attempt to prevent the Palestinian Authority to gain international recognition through the UN. So what is going to happen in January of 2015 is a big if and a major problem for Israel if in fact they do, and when I say they, the Palestinians, if in fact the Palestinians do get their 9 members to vote in their favor. Whether or not the United States can be counted upon, or Europe for that matter, is a matter of time. But at some point in time, I believe that the European Union will take a bigger role in the peace process. And this will likely take place after the rapture of the church takes place. And at some point in time, the Antichrist will rise to the forefront, and his charisma and his ability to lead will be so powerful that he will take center stage in the peace process, and he will bring peace with many, which will include the regional members of the Middle East, Israel, and the Antichrist, and this peace process will be confirmed. Now the question is this where it begins to roll forward? I think it is. I think we're looking at this. Certainly in the past this has been said before, but the bottom line is I think that we're starting to see some headway. So let's keep an eye on what's going to happen here in the next few months to see exactly what direction that the UN takes, the Palestinians, and of course Europe, and also the United States. And as always, if you don't know the Lord, you need to make that decision for Him as soon as possible. 150,000 people die every single day. In fact, one of my close friends died just over the weekend, and fortunately he was saved. But that's simply not the case for the vast majority of people who die. The Bible says of those 150,000, the vast majority will end up in a burning hell. Don't let that happen to you. And you know, friend, if you are a Christian and you have loved ones who you know are going to end up in the tribulation period, be sure and pick up a free copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. It is a download, and you would have to print it out, but you know, you can save yourself all that trouble. I also have a written version or a paperback version that you can get for somewhere around $8. It's actually cheaper to get that book than it is to actually take the downloaded version and go to the print shop and have it printed out. I've done that before already. It's between $10 and $12. But whatever you decide to do, go to the links that are posted and get your version, whether it be free or the paid version. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.